Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedal Shift Project. The Pedal Shift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshifted.net/238, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshifted.net or call the voicemail hotline 202-930-1109. You can text it too. Check Pedal Shift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 238th edition of the Pedal Shift Project. And yes, I'm outside. Can you tell? Can you tell from the helicopter traffic? This is seemingly endless here in the District of Columbia. Don't know why, just lots of helicopters these days. This is part 2 of the Pedal Shift Tour Journal's Paw Paw Tunnel bypass. And as a quick reminder, this is the second part of my 3 parts on my 2-day trip from Hancock, Maryland to Paw Paw, West Virginia, and back, highlighting the Paw Paw Tunnel bypass trail. And further reminder that the Park Service is closing the tunnel, for real this time, to complete a massive descaling project on the downstream side of the Paw Paw Tunnel. That means when it's closed, the only way to continue on the towpath is to go up and over the mountain that the tunnel goes through, and that was the whole point of this trip. I had never done it until this trip, and I'm very excited to share that with you. So in the second part, we're focusing on how I handled the incredibly frigid night at camp and then the bypass trail itself, plus a fun discovery on the other side. Good morning. I'm not sure if you could hear that. I just out of the tent, and there's a pileated woodpecker working on one of the trees about 30 feet up from where my tent is, and that was kind of a fun thing to wake up to. It was, as advertised, it was a chilly night, but I'll tell you what, you ride heavy, you bring the right gear. I don't think I've slept as good on a camping trip in a long time. That was very comfortable. I wasn't cold at all, not even that, I turned and a little bit of air came in kind of a thing. It was really very comfortable. Didn't even have to layer up inside my bag, which was good. I only actually was wearing one layer, so that was good. One trick that I learned a long time ago, but often will forget about keeping your feet warm, is to take some kind of clothing. I took my puffy jacket and put it down in the foot box, and I haven't had a better sleep for my feet in quite some time that low. So maybe changing my mind about camping in when lows are below 40, because that was great. New pad worked great. It isn't as wide as my other one is, which is not ideal. I think I've gotten used to having the extra wide pads because I am a side sleeper, but it worked out fine, and I adjusted and clearly didn't create a problem. But boy, it's warmed up quite a bit. I slept in. It's about 7:30. Sun's been up for an hour, and it's above the tree line now on the riverside here, and I mean, it must be in the 40s by now. It's well into the 40s. So yeah, it's not too bad. I'm gonna make some coffee, and then I haven't quite figured out what I'm gonna do. Whether I'm gonna leave my gear here. I think I am, since I do have obviously some miles to turn around and do. I'll probably go up unloaded just to kind of check out the trail and then return and then go from there. One bit of concern is the amount of water I have. I brought 4 liters thinking that would be plenty, and it should have been, but I drank a lot of water yesterday. I've got, I think, 1.5 liters to go, so clearly I drank more water than I anticipated. Actually, I should take that back. I had 5 liters with me. I did have a bit of a kerfuffle, and I might have lost 0.5 liter in all of that, just when I was loading some up. Long story that I won't belabor you with. But in any event, there's a good argument for me to go to Paw Paw and grab some water, Or I can just, manage my water supply. It's not going to be hot today at all. And it certainly is going to be a fraction as warm as yesterday. So we'll figure it out. Of course, I left my, and this is the last time I ever do this. I left my water pump, my Sawyer pump at home, thinking, I won't need that, which is a silly choice when I'm riding heavy. I mean, I should have just bought everything, and I left that one thing. And of course, I'm staring at the Potomac River right now, going, "Oh, that would have worked, wouldn't it?" The choices you make. Coffee first. Well, I'm recording first, obviously, but coffee is going to be my next thing. It's very unusual for me to see wildlife that evokes a bit of a surprise on the C&O, but right now, and unfortunately it was far too far away to get a decent picture, but on the West Virginia side of the river, there was either a bald eagle or an osprey, both of which are kind of delightful finds for me. I'm not sure if osprey are in this part of the region. I think they are. And if so, then I think I lean towards that because the body was a little darker, but it did have the white hood and the white tail, which is also a potential sign for a bald eagle. For those of you who live in parts of the country where bald eagles are sort of like, whatever, you may, and also maybe a little bit younger than me, bald eagles were very close to becoming an endangered species for quite a while there. I don't think they ever quite got there, but they certainly were a protected species. And in recent years, recent decade or so, they've made quite the rebound. And so for those of us who didn't get a chance to see them very often because A, we didn't live in an area where there were many of them, and B, they were threatened, so there weren't many of them in the first place, it's always still quite a sight to see. But it might have been an osprey, in which case, never mind. All right, about 20 minutes of 9. I always go a lot slower than I would prefer. But the reason why is because I largely packed up. And that is going to help me on the other side of all this. Decided to leave most of my stuff. I've got the tent up and I've got basically everything I don't need with me for the there and back, or the there and, well, I'm going someplace there, and I am coming back. So whatever the there is, it's the same situation. So I'm carrying basically just what I need. I have 1 liter of water, so that makes the strong argument to go to Paw Paw, but I might be able to do, on a nice cool day like this, get back on a liter of water, but it's probably not a great idea. There's Bill's Place. I could conceivably stop, but I would really like to not make any contact if I can. I should have brought my water filter. I do have my tank with me in case I do get a water supply that isn't something I have to buy. I've got my wallet in case I do have to buy something, which would be a bummer. Oh, and I have a mask in case I do have to go someplace and Paw Paw. All right, I'm going up the trail. I don't know if I'm going to go up and down. I don't know what. I don't know if I'm going to be able to ride much of it. We'll have to see. But you get to come along with me. Congratulations. And I'm sorry. All right. We are now going up the Tunnel Hill Trail. Got some signs here. The signage is much better. My recollection was when Preston Piper, friend of the show, was doing this, he said he had pointed out the signage wasn't very good. Well, it's much better now. And it also says to dismount. I am going to ignore that for at least a moment and see what the riding situation is like. For those of you who would find it easier to ride it. Now, I do not recommend this during any times when I think people are on here. It is, it's just simply too treacherous. Particularly when you're going downhill, which is a bit of a bummer. But, the Park Service is pretty clear that you're supposed to dismount and push. Here's the good news. The early part here gets another great sign. More signs. Yeah, this is well signed. Yellow towpath detour signs. And the early part is very not steep. I am in my lowest middle chain gear. Now, I am substantially close to unloaded. The grade is not bad at this point, but, maybe too hard to do fully loaded. You can tell I haven't done good enough hills lately, so I'm hopping off so I can keep talking to you rather than breathe, huffing and puffing. For a hike-a-bike, the grade is fine. I'm already probably 50 feet above the trail level right now. So the switchbacks are doing their work. And it is switchback. Whew. Okay, and the grade goes higher here as we get up the trail here. Park Service said allow 1.5 to 2 hours for this, which, judging by how high I've gotten, I don't know, obviously having never done this, I don't know how much climbing there is. I have watched Preston's video, but boy, this thing cannot be much more than a mile and change long, because that's how long the tunnel is. Now, I am still quite a ways from the tunnel at this point, the downstream opening. Welcome to episode 2, Harry Tim Breathe Hard. You'll obviously want to account for additional time here. And, if you are fully loaded, take breaks. You can just squeeze on your brake, as I am right now, and just take a breather. I'm close to what seems like the upper part of this, which would suggest this trail is perhaps not as detoury as you would think, but I do know it does have to swing pretty wide. Well, I'll tell you what, do the tunnel if you've never done it, but the view up here is absolutely fantastic. Now, it looks like it's a little bit of a downgrade, so I think what I'll do is I may hop on the bike here. Again, this is not what the Park Service suggests. I don't believe there's going to be a soul on this trail, and I'm going to take it slow no matter what. So now we're making progress towards the tunnel a little bit here now that we've gone up. There's the dual organism lichens, a Park Service sign, and it's talking about the silvery patch on the ground of gray-green stains. They are lichens. Algae produce the nutrients and fungi provide the root system. High symbiosis. I just paraphrased. All right. Oh, this is nice. So there are a series of these wildlife signs and more detours. There was a schoolhouse up here. That's pretty crazy. Reminds me of that thing grandparents used to say about walking uphill both ways. Boulders, signage. So this is certainly a fun way to learn more. These are signs I've never seen. I think I've read every sign on the trail multiple times. But yeah, great little educational opportunity for you. And as you can hear, I am riding. really good there, so just let myself go. Really beautiful. Yeah, again, fully loaded. It's going to take you some time. But it's not too bad. Again, to avoid the huffing and puffing. What I just lost, I'm now going to have to earn back. Temperature's gone up quite a bit. I changed out of my sleeping gear and decided not to wear the puffy, which now seems like a great idea. All right, well, I'm gonna let you not have to join me for the next little bit here, and more to come on the Paw Paw Tunnel bypass trail. All right, well, the switchback's got me up here, but now there's an incredibly steep section that is, I don't think rideable for anyone but the most unladen biker. I'm even pushing it up. Well, I've been pushing it up other less steeper slopes, but yeah, and it looks like I can see what seems to be the top of a ridge line. So a second ridge line that I suspect is the beginning of the end here. Or I should say the summit, if you will. But yeah, very steep. Do not recommend riding up or especially down it. You have a good sight line, but it then curves sharply to the left if you're coming down this, and you could have a wall of people side by side who are walking towards you, and you'd have a real rough time stopping. So yeah, this is certainly not one that I would consider riding in either direction. There is a nice little rest area here that on a crowded day is probably helpful for pulling your bike over to let people by. Yeah, it's funny, when I started, as you probably heard in my voice, I was like, this is nothing. Yeah, well, it gets steeper. Yeah, depending on how much further it is, it'll be interesting also to see what the how it is on the other side. But I would say steepness, check. Switchbacks, check. Everything you would expect. Coming around a bend here. This is one of those situations where whenever I used to hike more, there'd be what seems to be the top, and it would curve out of sight, and then you went around the curve and you had more going up. See, it can't fool me. Trails don't have me the same way they used to. And yes, it does seem to be the case. Flattens out a little bit, but then it switches back and goes steeper. Ha! Told you. Woo! Yeah, more huffing and puffing for me. I did have a coffee. I did eat a nice sugary breakfast, so that's been helpful. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take a short break here before I continue up the switchback, and you can rejoin me perhaps even at the summit. All right, we are at the top of Sorrel Ridge, and this is the summit essentially of the towpath detour. Very, very steep on the downstream side. So take some doing, take some pushing, loaded or unloaded. The signage up here is very good. You essentially want to make sure that you are following yellow signs. It is confusing. There are, as Preston noted in his video, there is a confluence of trails and roads up here at the summit. And for the lack of a better way, consider this a traffic circle where you are largely going to be going, follow the yellow signs. If you're coming from the direction I did, from the downstream side, you're going to want to hug. If you consider this a traffic circle, go the wrong way. Go on the left side of it, and it'll be your first left. If you are coming from the upstream side, in other words, you're coming from Paw Paw, you're going to enter the traffic circle from the trail, and you'll see a sign that says Towpath Bike Tour that's pointing back in your direction as you exit it. Obviously, that doesn't apply to you in that direction. You will go to the right side. You'll see Towpath Detour pointing in the direction you've been going, and you'll go through the gate. There is a gate, and there's also a sign with an arrow saying straight, and you will run into an info sign very close to the end, or very close to the traffic circle, again, for lack of a better word, that talks about it being the top of Sorrel Ridge. So easy, because it's signed. Back when it wasn't signed, I could see massive amounts of confusion potentially. So thank you, Park Service, for making that better. Okay, we're going to go, I think, to Paw Paw, just because it is a little after 9. I don't remember what time I started this. I'll have to check. But yeah, not a zero-sum game in terms of energy output going up. I assume it's going to be the same on the other way. Factor in extra time. Factor in a very big energy level need for this compared to the rest of the trail. Now, it might be a good change of pace after a day of riding. I know for me that, if I'm just spinning for hours and hours on end, it's not such a bad idea to get off and push for a little bit up a big hill. But make sure you got enough food, make sure you got enough water. And on those hot days, this is not going to be fun. I'll have to be honest. The tunnel is a welcome respite. And you can, for some cool times. I will say again, for the record, on the Paw Paw side, the upstream side, the tunnel is open. So if you do want to kind of cool off a little bit, you can go in, and I really do recommend going to check out at least some of the tunnel. Maybe not going all the way to the end, unless you want to. That's always a possibility. The problem is you're going to have to turn right back around, walk another mile back, and then you're going to have to come up this hill. So let's see what the upstream side of the trail looks like from a downhill perspective. And then we get to do it all in reverse. Okay, see you in a bit. Wow, I cannot tell you. Well, I have a picture, hopefully several of them from up here. There is a spot here on the upstream side of the trail here, which gets rocky and whatnot. And you get to see the Paw Paw bends, which I have never laid eyes on from this angle. It is stunning. This is the feature of the river, why we need the tunnel. What a view. What a just tremendous view. I can't believe I've gone nearly a decade riding this trail, and I've never seen this. It is worth coming up here for it. And if you're riding the trail, you are going to be seeing this. This is worth it. So far on the downstream, I've only gone a little while here. It's flatter. It's not nearly as steep here at this angle. Now, I don't know if that's going to continue, but you can see the town of Paw Paw from here, which is my destination, because I think I'm going to get water up a little bit, and then I'll turn around. It also gives me a chance to rest a touch, and then I'll turn right back around. But what a stunning view. The other nice thing is this part of the trail has terrible cell coverage. Historically, I couldn't get any AT&T signal at all here. Right here, I'm getting like 4 bars, so it must be coming from the town of Paw Paw, which is new, and I think I had noticed that last time. I can't remember if I've mentioned that on this edition of the Tour Journals, but definitely a bonus for Paw Paw at this point, the fact that it's got more than, it's a local, West Virginia hyper-local cellular system that didn't work with AT&T, didn't work with Verizon. You were largely out of it unless you were on that regional, even statewide system. But now you can, at least on AT&T, which is pretty great. So off we go. I might linger here for a bit because it is just stunning. And I'll take a few pictures to make sure I get the best picture for up here. It's it may be the best view on the trail. Honest to God, it's really something else. It's almost too bad that there isn't a flat spot to camp on properly up here, even though, of course, that would be wrong, as a friend of the show, Brock Does would say. Okay, break, pictures, and back down to Paw Paw. Well, that de-escalated quickly. Not really. It's much less steep, but very little to no, actually no switchbacks from that spot that I just recorded at. I slowly rolled it down. I think that the trail surface, if you are not used to anything but groomed trails and asphalt, I strongly recommend you walk it, as the Park Service demands that you do. For those of you with a little bit of trail experience, do so at your own risk. I am now currently crossing, by the way, the canal portion, which I don't believe I've ever crossed the partially filled kind of swampy canal in any way, shape, or form. There's a kind of a low-tech, low bridge here that gets you across here. I have passed this trail entrance / exit point many a time in my travails, but this is the first time I actually crossed it, believe it or not. So, I'm gonna push up here. So it's you're out of sight of the canal. The tunnel. It's around the corner from here. But you, as I mentioned, you can go in there if you'd like. Yeah, I recommend it. It's cool. You can only get in it from the upstream side. And so initial thoughts. Certainly steeper if you're coming from DC to Cumberland. I think it's the harder route, subject to me pushing back up here again here. That might help make a directional assessment for folks in terms of doing the DC to Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh to DC full ride. I don't think that many people are going to be starting from Cumberland going back to DC, although I could be wrong. I've certainly done it. I think that is for until the tunnel reopens, until this bypass, until this detour is removed. I think that Cumberland to DC, at first glance here, feels like the slightly easier route. Ask me again in a little while here. That's my initial thought. Trail surface, gravelly, uneven, and subject to having trees fall over it. You can definitely tell that they've had that into last season. So, but does it ruin the experience? Absolutely not. With the view you get of the bends and of the town of Paw Paw, it is worth doing. You know, I would hesitate to to dissuade folks from doing it, even if the tunnel is open, because it is quite the view. But it's work. It's work to get to the top of it. And fully loaded, it's going to be that much harder. So, all right, off to Paw Paw to get some water. Back on the trail in a bit. From the Maryland side of the Potomac River, across from Paw Paw, West Virginia, a couple of things of note. I mentioned that I don't come to Paw Paw really very often, largely because it's either at the very beginning of my day or it's, I tend to have food with me, and there isn't a reason to take the extra 10 minutes in each direction to go. I don't think that is I'm not sure if that's going to continue. I may make Paw Paw a stopping point potentially, or at least know that there's a better setup here than before. Part one, cell strength. There's definitely a cell signal here, which is really, really helpful for checking in as you're entering a largely cell-free area, which seems to be going away slowly. I don't know how I feel about that. I do like having a cell signal on the entire trail. So maybe that's my answer there. The big thing is that Maryland 51 had a shoulder on it, but it wasn't great for connecting between the trail and town. And granted, it's not very far. So I didn't really think much of it now. Well, the state of Maryland, or Allegheny County, one of the two, built a beautiful, wide sidewalk all the way to the Potomac River Bridge here. Now, when you're on the bridge and when you cross into West Virginia, it goes back down to the narrow-ish shoulder, but there is a bike lane. They call it a bike lane, and it is marked as such. So, it is there. And there are services in Paw Paw. The Liberty gas station is the one I talked about before. There's like a little, kind of snack bar. I call it a cafe. I think they would call it a snack bar. There's also a dollar store, and there's also a family restaurant, which I believe has been kind of closed through COVID, and hopefully they'll be able to come back. So there are things here. One thing I'll note for the record here at the tail end of COVID is, different towns will have different relationships with what it means to wear a mask. And, I think I'm on record. I wear a mask to protect myself and to protect other people. I think it's an important thing. I think there's good science behind it, and I will not belabor the point and argue it any further, because I don't think that there's an argument. There was a sign on the Liberty store, and this has been my experience in West Virginia, I have to be honest. Folks just don't believe in it, don't care about it, whatever. There's a sign on the door that says mask required. I was like, oh shoot, I almost forgot. And I had my mask with me, put it on, walked in, person working there wasn't wearing a mask. Nobody who was inside was wearing a mask. So, I got my water and my Gatorade real quick, got in and out. And that's the reason why I've been practicing zero contact when I've been riding for this last year. It's just, I can't trust other folks. I can protect myself. I can ride the way that I want to ride. And, I'm probably within not months, but weeks of getting a vaccination myself. I know lots of other people will be as well, and that's still not going to change. I think I'm still going to be masking up when I go into places, because I can't trust what other folks are doing necessarily. In a couple of months, lots of people will have gotten a vaccination, but I won't be sure. I mean, we're not going to be wearing like little signs that say, hey, I've been vaccinated, and that's probably a good thing. So, in any event, that was. I think last year I would have been super horrified. I still am. I'll be honest. But it's just now I just kind of have to chuckle. It's just sort of like, really, still now. Okay, heading back, and I'm looking at the gigantic mountain that I have to push my bike up, and then work my way back towards Hancock. But been a fun day so far, I have to say. I'm feeling good. I've got some bars with me that I might have before I go up, and I've got, what else do I have? Oh, I left my, this was probably a bad idea, but I left my second calzone in the tent, so I will have lunch when I get back, so that should be good. All right, off I go. So I had to get home, but there was yet another surprise, something we'll cover in the final edition of this tour journal next week. Oh, by the way, remember I had this really awesome thing to share with you all? Well, it happened, and I'm 2 weeks into my first vaccination, and I am scheduled for my second shot for the end of April. That has consequences for the podcast, and obviously I'll be sharing that with you. It's not going to be exactly how you think. More to come. By the way, save the date. Friday, April 30th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We're doing a live show, y'all. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedal Shift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedal Shift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one-shot and annual options. If you're not into the small monthly thing, check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Didis, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadis, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Byron Patterson, Joachim Robert, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Henkel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Dan Gebhardt, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Bigel, Greg Middlemas, Connie Moore, William Goffman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latois Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Tom Bilch, Ronald Piroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Grotke, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lecco, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCulloch, John Hickman, Jack Smith, Carl Presseau, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Dave Fletcher, James Stratakis, David Neves, Mike Lazewski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponseller, Chad Reno, Daniel Greger, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, and thanks also to all past and anonymous members for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.